Hey, what's going on, guys? Dr. Thompson here with Exemplify Health Center, a Wellness Way affiliate right here in Yorkville, Illinois. Happy Monday afternoon. So just in case you're wondering, I decided to go live a little bit earlier instead of going live tonight. All right. So if you guys are watching a lot of you will be watching the replay. So if you are watching the replay, just go ahead and type in their replay, and then make sure that you like this, make sure that you share this as well, because I'm going to go over a very important topic, and this is fitness and your menstrual cycle. All right, so I'm not going to go over, if you are, let me just give you like full disclosure. I'll tell you right now, if you are menopausal, the biggest thing is that you don't have to pay attention to your menstrual cycle when working out. However, one of the things you got to make sure that your adrenal glands are super healthy. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of most of your estradiol is coming from your adrenal glands. Progesterone is coming from your adrenal glands. So if you are not taking care of your adrenal glands, too much physical stress, too much chemical stress, too much mental stress, exercise can actually be something that becomes not good for you. All right. So before we actually talk about fitness and your menstrual cycle, let's say hello to a couple of people. Sue, how are you doing? Brooke, hello. Thank you for watching. Mitzi, good afternoon. So again, I am going live earlier instead of tonight. I was planning on going live at about 7 o'clock, but I would like to get home early. Hopefully that's okay for you guys. All right, so let's talk about fitness and your menstrual cycle. So who is this going to pertain to? Specifically, this is going to pertain to, girls when they start their menstrual cycle all the way until you hit menopause, which, can be, anywhere from 48 to 52, 53 years of age. So I want to talk about fitness because the difference between men and women is so different, okay? So men don't have a specific cycle where fitness would be optimal for them. But I'm going to tell you, if you are of that cycling age, there is a specific time where fitness is good. There's also a specific time where certain types of fitness can actually be bad. So if you look at men, if you were following them on this trajectory throughout the whole entire month, men's testosterone should just actually be high. So it should be high through the whole month. However, actually, what a lot of people don't know is men's testosterone will go higher and lower depending on the time of the day. So typically men's testosterone will be elevated in the morning, and then at night it'll go down just a little bit. But let's talk about a woman's menstrual cycle, because when you look at this, you can see through this whole 28 days how everything is just, you can see between your estradiol, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, progesterone, and then you even have your testosterone, how that differs throughout the whole entire 28 days. So really, when you look at from a hormone perspective, is that, ladies, you are really like almost 4 different people throughout just your 28-day cycle. So let's talk specifically about fitness and what it would be, what types of fitness you should do depending on the first week, the second week, the third week, or the fourth week. Now, I want to show you guys a little bit about really the functions of some of these hormones, okay? So if you know just some basic functions, and this is not the end-all be-all, but if you know some of the basic functions of hormones, we call this hormones 101, and if you know like what they do and how they make you feel, it really allows you to be able to honor the point of where you're at in your cycle so that you don't become hormonally sick, all right? So let's talk about the whole function of estradiol, for example. Remember, you have a lot of different estrogens. Estradiol is usually what a lot of people talk about, okay? So estradiol, what does it do? So where is it produced? Estradiol is produced if you are of that menstrual cycle age, primarily in the ovaries. It's also produced in the adrenal glands, and it's also produced in the fat cells. And in fact, ladies, if you are past menopause, where you are getting your estradiol is going to be coming from your adrenal glands. It's also going to be made from your fat cells. Now, the main purpose of this is for growth of the endometrium. So remember, estradiol is anabolic. It causes tissue growth, including muscle growth as well. And so it causes, primarily the reason why we have it is for women, the growth of the breasts, and then also the growth of the endometrial lining in the uterus. Number 3, it helps to maintain bone mass. And that is why, you really should be concerned about loss of bone mass after menopause, because that's when it starts to speed up. Also is responsible for elasticity of the skin. So elasticity of the skin, having, looking young. And it also, what's interesting is that estradiol also decreases hunger. So remember that when I show you actually your cycle. Now let's talk about progesterone. So progesterone is produced as well in the ovaries, and it's also produced a little bit in the adrenal glands. And after menopause, where you're getting your progesterone production is going to come exclusively from the adrenal glands. It helps to then maintain the endometrium. So you get the growth of the endometrium during your cycle, preparing for pregnancy, and then it helps to maintain it just in case pregnancy happens. Also involved with elasticity of the skin, but it also decreases the immune system response. So pay attention to that when you are more likely to get sick or get an infection. And the reason why it decreases the immune system response is during pregnancy, you actually want to downregulate the immune system so that the immune system doesn't attack a fertilized egg. And then finally, it will actually increase hunger. So it will actually increase hunger. So pay attention to that too, because you never know, you understand why you have increased cravings during certain specific times. Now let's talk about testosterone, okay? So ladies, you do have testosterone. Men are going to have more than ladies, but testosterone for men is going to be produced in the testicles. But ladies, the adrenal glands can also produce some testosterone as well, and also a little bit when it comes to the egg as it is getting released from the ovaries. It's primarily responsible for men's sperm development. It also helps with focus, energy, sexual arousal, and then finally, it also is great as far as muscle mass is concerned. So just remember, ladies, is that you guys don't have testicles, which makes you ladies and not men. So there's always this, people think that if I work out too much, I'm going to get too muscle bound or whatever. But ladies, the amount of testosterone that you have is really about, I'm just going to spitball 10 times less than what a man actually produces. Or I would say this, what a man should produce, okay? So there's a lot of men that are hormonally sick, and they don't have that much more testosterone than some ladies. So those are the functions of those three specific hormones. So watch when I talk to you about how you should be working out and the types of working out you should do that's based off of your menstrual cycle, okay? So let's talk about this. So if you see this right here is going to be your estrogen. This right here is going to be your progesterone. So we're just kind of stripping it down to just those two hormones. There's other hormones that play, including testosterone, and I'll talk to you about that in that mid-cycle. So the first thing you got to look at is in that first 7 days. That first 7 days is when, ladies, you get your period. Okay, so this is when you literally are giving birth, and it's a form of birth because you didn't get pregnant. So now that the endometrial lining has to be shed. So you're going to see a contraction of the uterus. So the uterus has to contract, the uterus has to expel that endometrial lining so that it can start to build and start to rebuild a brand new endometrial lining for that next cycle. So here's what's really interesting during this time. So during this time of your menstrual cycle, remember, you need to have a proper muscle contraction. You need to have proper blood supply going into the uterus. So you really want to avoid things that are going to divert blood away from the uterus, because if you have too much blood that's diverted away because you are doing too much high intensity exercise, because you're doing things that are elevating the heart rate too much, and you divert that blood away, you're going to get an incomplete shedding of the endometrial lining. And so what happens is that if you keep doing that every single cycle and you have some endometrial lining that persists, then what happens is that next cycle the body will then build a brand new endometrium. But if you don't get rid of that, then what happens is you have some endometrial tissue that will persist, that will then actually be responsive to that next hormone cycle, and then cause a buildup and cause a proliferation. So you think about it, if you don't shed that endometrial lining completely, then what happens is you get endometrial tissue, active endometrial tissue within endometrial tissue, and that's where you start having issues with endometriosis or adenomyosis, and that can be extremely painful. So watch. So during this time, the best types of exercise for you to do in order to stay hormonally healthy are going to be things like Vibe Plate. Okay, so we love the Vibe Plate. Literally just standing on a Vibe Plate is great, especially for the first 7 days of your menstrual cycle. Working on some mobility, so doing foam rolling, doing yoga, working on some stretching, working on squat holds or something to improve your movement is another great thing to do. Another thing that you can do is you can do some things that aren't going to elevate your heart rate too much. So you can do things like isometric holds or working on some strength. And the reason why I like isometric holds a lot is that it builds static strength, but it doesn't cause so much muscle contraction to divert so much blood away from the endometrium and then into your extremities or into your legs, your butt, your thighs, your biceps, triceps, all of those different areas. So isometric holds are a great way in order to build static strength without causing that like weightlifting type pump. So doing things like overhead holds or doing like a plank or doing a bottom of the squat hold, just awesome things. Like even if you're doing a mid-cycle curl and you're just holding in that position, we call it like a gun hold. Those are some things that can build functional strength without elevating that heart rate. And then finally, another thing that you can do is you can always walk. Okay, so you can always walk. Walking's not going to elevate your heart rate. And again, it's just getting some movement in. And it's also getting what we would call like non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you are going to be burning some energy with walking. Obviously, it's not like the ideal form of exercise, but again, we're trying to honor your cycle, especially in the first 7 days, and try to get that endometrium to shed completely, okay? Now, let's talk about like how you should feel during this time. So as you start your menstrual cycle and as it goes into day 4, 5, 6, things like that, one of the things that you're going to notice is you're going to start actually feeling better. And the reason why is because your estrogens are starting to build. So if you look at what the function of estrogen is, you're going to notice maybe that your appetite is going to go down a little bit. You're going to notice that you feel better, you feel a little bit more confident. And that's just because those estrogens are actually starting to build. Progesterone is going to stay low throughout this whole time. Now, when you look at this second week, okay, the second week is the best time to exercise. Okay, so it's the best time to exercise, and not only is it a great time to exercise, but this is actually where you will probably feel your best. And the reason why is that your estrogen levels are actually going almost like pretty much as high as they're going to during your cycle, and you're not going to see that progesterone actually build. So this is actually the time where you'll feel your best, you'll have the most confident. This is actually probably the best time in order to put on any kind of muscle, and this is actually the best time, if weight loss is a goal, the best time during your menstrual cycle to actually lose weight. So that 7 to 14 is going to be the best time in order for you to lose weight. Now, interesting enough, right around this time right here, you're going to see a spike for 3 to 4 days of your testosterone levels. So ladies, during this time, as the body gets ready to release the egg, because at day 14 is going to be approximately the time of ovulation, and this is where testosterone is going to be at its highest too. And listen, that makes sense because you're releasing an egg, and testosterone for a woman is going to make them want to have sex more. All right, so that's just is what it is. And so because it's at that time, because it's the best time in order for you to be able to fertilize the egg in order to get pregnant. Now, during this time when estrogen is high, remember estrogen is androgenic as well, so this is where things like metabolic conditioning are going to be the best. And what I mean by metabolic conditioning is high intensity, short duration, functional type movement. So think of doing high rep, high intensity deadlifts or some kind of weightlifting. Think of doing burpees, think of doing squats. Think of doing kettlebell swings. And again, doing it for a short duration, high intensity is going to be the best time to do it at this point. You can also be doing heavy weightlifting. So listen, we have a gym and ladies love to do heavy weightlifting. So this would be a time where if you are going heavy, like doing a deadlift or doing a press or doing a clean or doing a snatch, this is going to be the best time to do it and you'll get the most results. And because estrogen is going to be at its highest, this is the best time to focus on weight loss. But in addition to that, this is actually the time where you probably will feel the least amount of hunger. So you're not going to be wanting to eat, obviously, all the time. Now, let's go into week 3, okay? Because week 3 is the most important time to avoid stress. So ladies, mental stressors, decrease your physical stressors, decrease chemical stressors as much as possible. And the reason why is because during this time, you're going to see a dip in your estrogen, okay? And so after ovulation, probably aren't going to feel super hot. But what you also have to do is you have to build up that progesterone. So now that progesterone is, once the endometrium has been built, the progesterone is going to maintain it. And the reason why it's maintaining it is because if you fertilize that egg, now there is a place where that egg can be implanted and start to grow a baby. So you're going to see estrogen go down. You'll see it start to go back up at the end of your menstrual, or the end of week 3. So you'll start probably feeling a little bit better. But what's interesting during this time is as that progesterone starts to go up, so the progesterone is starting to go up, here's the thing. You may start noticing that you are more hungry. So you may actually eat 15 to 20% more calories during that time. And the reason why is because you actually want to eat more in order to be able to maintain a baby and maintain that pregnancy. So it actually kind of makes sense. And so during that time, you want no stress. And the reason why is because if you have a high amount of physical stressors and you have a high amount of mental stressors, then what happens is that progesterone production can actually get stolen to produce a stress hormone known as cortisol. So guys, if you can keep your cortisol levels as low as possible, it will actually preserve that progesterone to be able to maintain that endometrial lining. So what does that mean from an exercise perspective? Again, we're going back to doing things like vibe plate, mobility, isometric holds or isometric type strength, walking. And you'll also, like I said, probably have more hunger, and that's okay. That's a natural physiological response to progesterone. So this is the time where at week 3, where the most important time to keep that exercise stress down as much as possible is actually going to be during that week 3. That is the most important time, and this is where a lot of women absolutely do it backwards or do it wrong, because they're go into high stress, high intensity exercise, and they keep doing it month after month, and then they become actually what's known as progesterone deficient, and so then it will start to mess with the menstrual cycle and things like that. So let's talk about week 4, okay? So week 4, so you see this picture up here. Week 4, well, how are you going to feel on week 4? And nobody knows. And the reason why is that it's up in the air based on how you did on week 1, week 2, and then week 3. If you've done a great job on week 1, 2, and 3, this is actually a week where you'll feel pretty great. And so you'll see that estrogen levels will start to go down. But during this time too, you also need your progesterone levels to go down so that you can actually start to release the endometrial lining. And so during this time, during this week 4, is actually when you do want the highest amount of physical stress. So having, a physical stressor will help you to what we call drain your hormones. And so this is actually going back to week 2, in which you're doing heavy metabolic conditioning. This is when you're doing heavy weightlifting. Because the reason why is you want to try to drain that progesterone as much as possible. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, you see that it's all different. So week 2, week 4 are really the best times that you can actually lose weight if you are actually trying to do that. Week 1 is actually a time where you can do that, but week 3 is actually the time where you want to honor your hormones as much as possible and try to keep those physical, mental, and chemical stressors as low as possible. Okay? So, guys, hopefully that makes sense to you. So, coming up, if you are in the Yorkville area, Hope for Your Hormones is coming up. This is going to be Saturday, September 12th. It's going to be right here in our office. Masks are not required. You can wear it if you want, or you don't have to if you don't want to. And this will be an in-person event. So 9 o'clock, probably until about 10:30. And we're going to take you, we're going to go over this, and we'll go over a lot more stuff on how you honor your hormones. And just remember this, guys, is that hormones will never make you sick. They're a response to a sickness someplace else. So hormones don't make you sick, but they will in fact help you they'll make you feel sick if there's some kind of hormone issue that's actually going on. So Toby, I wish there would be more information on women and menopause. Absolutely. Go back to the beginning of this video if you can, because I talked about adrenals and working out with women. There's a difference between menopausal and then cycling age. All right. So Hope for Your Hormones coming up Saturday, September 12th, 9 o'clock to 10:30. We are going to go over much more than just what I went over, but it's going to help you understand your hormones, because too many times, ladies, they don't understand their hormones, and their doctor really doesn't understand their hormones as well. And so we need to stop putting women on birth control, creating hormone imbalances to try to fix other hormone imbalances, and start to get to the reason why your hormones are not where they are supposed to be. So guys, hopefully that makes sense. And we will go over that. And maybe next week, definitely not going to be Monday, it's going to be Labor Day, but maybe next week we'll talk about women and menopause and exercise. If that's something that you guys want, give me a thumbs up or give me a like, give me a love. And if we get enough people, then I'll consider that to do that next week. All right? So guys, I hope you have a great Monday afternoon. Guys, please share this with other people, especially other ladies who, are having some really major hormone issues. Let them know that there's hope. Share this video with them, and we will talk to you guys very soon. Be well.